Getting things pretty well handled here in the cabin area, in the cockpit, at least in the pilot seat forward. The instrument panel is pretty much done. I just put in that control cable for the back seat heat, even though I don't have a control box for that yet, but I wanted to get that hole filled. It's a lot easier to put that thing in and get it tightened up now than it will be after we get the boot cowl and everything else on. Still got to figure out where to put the aircraft identification number plate and a compass correction card. I've got to figure out what I did with it. I've got it somewhere in my stash of stuff, but I don't remember where I put it right now. This map pocket here, this little thing that I put on that's a report binder thing, goes on reports on to keep a whole bunch of loose pages together. That held on there pretty good. I put some black RTV in there just to help glue that down and make sure it stays, and that thing worked out really nice. Got my new fire extinguisher put in here, should be out of the way. Got the seat in, all the covers for all the holes in the floor are all down. My anti-skid plates, wear plates are down. Of course the seat is in, the flap handle is mounted up. I still have to mount these wires and stuff here onto the solenoids that go on there, but I haven't got the boots yet for that. I've got new boots to put over the protective nipples, they call them, to put over those. Otherwise, that all looks pretty good. Well, I got to look in here in the back to see what needed to be done back here yet. And of course, I haven't put the seat back in yet. I'm not going to do that till we get closer to being done. Talking to my mechanic about the seat belts, and they lost them down there, so he's looking for them, and I really wasn't going to put those in until we get everything else pretty much done anyway. But I realized that I hadn't put the holes in for the seat belt attach bolts in here in these trim pieces, these stainless steel angle trim pieces that I put on there. I located the hole through the Kydex and stuff and had that done. They disappeared when I put these trim pieces on, so I had to take these two trim pieces off that fit over where this underseat storage is, locate the holes, punch them in these trim pieces, and then put them back on. Once I did that, I realized that I didn't have enough room on this door here for this underseat storage on this right side. I didn't have enough room here to clear that seatbelt bolt. I had this fitted in here nice and tight in here on this side, on this right side, but once I got the seatbelt hole punched in there, then I could see that that door, the wood floor door, whatever it is, wouldn't clear this seatbelt bolt and the seatbelt when it's attached on there. So I had to take that off, and I took that down to the bandsaw and trimmed a little bit off of it so it should clear. I've got that done, but I need to sand that edge, raw edge down, mix up some varnish and revarnish that edge. One of the other things that I haven't done, this is a rear crossbar. This is a structural member of the airframe. They've got it removable on here, which is real handy. You take this out for loading cargo and stuff in and out of the back of the airplane, the baggage compartment. Like I said, it's a structural member of the airplane. It has to be in there during flight. This one is just set up with a bar, and it's got two pins in it that are welded into that bar, little pockets on the end of the bar here, and these two pins, and they just go into little holes in there. This is the bar that Cub Crafters had in the other airframe, and it's set up a little bit different. It's got a little universal joint right here, and then it fit into this pocket, was bolted in, and you could raise this up and pivot it over out of the way. That was pretty nice like that, and then it just dropped down over here onto this tab that sticks out here. Had a quick connect pin that go in there, and but that was pretty handy. That fit pretty good, but it won't fit in this airframe because of course it's too short. It's made for the narrower airframe. This one here is kind of a pain. You got to get these two holes lined up. Well, there's actually four holes in there. There's a hole here on the top and another hole here on the bottom on both of these, and so you got to get those pins lined up in those holes on both sides, and then you got to get them down and get them to line up through the bottom holes. And if you get that cockeyed just a little bit, it's hard enough to get it to line up into one hole, let alone to get it to line up into both holes. So that's got to be in there. It's got to go down. There it went. Now it won't go down in this one. There it goes. That'll go down in both of them. So you can see what a pain in the butt that is. Well, I was thinking about trying to modify this one to work the same way that this one does. Still may do that, I don't know. The nice thing about this is that this doesn't come out all the way. You don't lose track of it. It just folds up like this and then pivots over, and then it stays right there in the airplane and it doesn't get lost, and it's out of the way, and then you just swing it back in and drop it back in. This one here, you get it out, and it's a pain to get out, and then of course it's loose. And being on floats, if a guy was on wheels, it's probably not too bad, but being on floats, if this comes anywhere near the door, it's going to drop and fall out and go kerplunk, and then you won't have it anymore. But one idea that I was working on was to cut a couple of plugs, take a couple of aluminum slugs and put in there and drill those holes all the way through that aluminum. That way, once you get those pins lined up in the holes, they're just going to slide down in there, and you don't have to worry about trying to get it to go into one hole and then get it to go into the other hole. Once they're in the holes, they're just going to slide down in there through that aluminum, and it's all going to be one hole instead of two holes. So I had a piece of inch square aluminum bar stock that I bought, and I just measured this out, and it's 13/16 inside dimension on that tube. So I took these down the bandsaw and cut them off, and I'll have to take a file and file them down and square them up and get them to fit. But that's kind of what I'm thinking here right now. After sitting and contemplating different options there for fixing that cross seat tube, I decided to go with plan A. Got my little block that I cut off with the bandsaw, and I've got it set up in my milling machine right now to mill that down square to the correct size. I was using a finger vise, but I wasn't really getting enough purchase on that. I have probably a 1/16 or so to mill off of that to get it squared up on both sides at least, and then I can start fitting it in the hole there. Anyway, I set up my milling vise and I got my mill out here, and I'll square that piece up and bring it down to size, and I'll have to do the other one exactly the same way. I got this first slug of aluminum milled out, and I got it to fit in that tube, so I marked the holes where the holes go on it. We'll drill that out drill out from one side and then drill from the other to the intersect, and then ream the hole out, and then put that in there. I'll either drill it for a rivet or put a screw in it or something like that from one side to hold it in, put some epoxy in there or something like that to get it to stay in there. I just drilled a number 30 hole in there and screwed a number 6 screw in there in the end of it. I didn't thread it, I just screwed it in there and let the screw thread itself in. So I've got something to grab onto it and pull it back out of there with to work on it. So that's it, that's the first one. That only took about 3 hours to make. My milling machine's a little slow. We got the first block fitted in there. I fitted it so it would just tightly slide into this tube here, this square tube, marked it, and then took it down the drill press and drilled the hole straight through it, which lined up pretty darn close to what it was supposed to be. I've drilled it out with a drill 190 thousandths, 196 thousandths or something like that, which is quite a bit smaller than the 1/4 inch hole that goes through it. Then I brought it up here and lined it up in the tube so the hole was centered, and then run reamers down it. I wound up running 4 different reamers down it till I got it to 1/4 inch. So that hole is perfectly lined up with the hole that was existing in this tube, and it's 1/4 inch, which is the size of that pin. And I just tried it out, and it already works a whole lot better. I've got this marked. I'll take it out and cut it off flush here, and then put it back in here and line it up, and then I think I'll back drill this and put a pop rivet or something in it to hold it in. I'll probably mix up some epoxy and put around it too, but that one looks pretty good. That makes a big difference. Even though I don't have that on the other side, keeping it lined up on this side makes it a lot easier to get in and out. So I think that's the key to that. Okay, there's my block. take that out, and I've got it marked here where to cut it off. I'll cut that off and smooth that off there. That'll be the face that's out. And I've got my hole. I'll chamfer those both sides of that, and then put that back in there and make up another one for the other side. Well, I took the hacksaw and cut the excess of that plug off of there, and then trimmed it up, trued it up, smoothed it up with a file. Mixed up a little bit of 5-minute epoxy and just rubbed on the ends of it there on the sides. I didn't want to get any getting into this hole. And this thing is pretty tight fitting in there, so that squeezed out, but it'll fill any gaps in there and help hold that in. Then I took a 3/32 drill bit and drilled a hole in from the back side, countersunk it, and put a pop rivet in there. And this thing is in there pretty good now. It's pretty tight. Oh. That makes it work a lot better, just even having just the one in there. So, don't have to worry about it. It still doesn't quite, there's still some spring tension on it. You're getting the holes lined up on the side, but that thing slides right down in there. I can bring it up, put that side down in, and slide that side right down in. That works really nice. I'm going to go ahead and make one up for the other side too. Having the one on this side here makes it a lot better. That works a lot better already. But still not as nice as the one that was in the other airframe, but I think it's working out pretty good. And it took a bit, but I finally got this one on the left side to fit. Kept filing it down a little bit at a time, fitting it in there, and it'd go in a little bit farther, and then I'd have to file it a little bit more. And finally I got to looking, and I could see little scars on the top of this where it went through there. And what the problem was is there's a burr on this top hole here where the hole was punched in on the inside of it. So I had to get something to clean that burr out, and once I did, then this thing slips right in there. It's almost too loose now. It's a good fit, but it's looser than what it could have been. We got it anyway, so I can get that hole drilled out in there, and we'll get that one glued in there like the one on the other side, and that should be good. Well, after much trial and error and fitting and filing, I got that block to fit in there on that left side. It's a little bit looser than the one on the right side because it had a burr in the holes in the tube itself that were impeding the block from sliding in there. And once I filed those out and cleaned those burrs up, then that thing slid in there too easy. But it's still a good fit. It's not a press fit like the one on the right side is, but it's a good slip fit. Put some epoxy on it and slid it in that tube. I've got a 1/4 inch number 4 bolt in there to hold it in place for now, and I'll go ahead and drill that out and put a pop rivet in it like I did the one here on the right side. Took my clipboard out of the clipboard holder there and put some old paper towels, rags in there to keep the chips and stuff from falling down in there, because we made lots of chips there running those reamers down through that hole to get it the right size. And we'll make some more chips with the drilling that hole out to put the pop rivet in. So okay, that thing goes in there a heck of a lot better now. Slides in there pretty easy. Don't have to worry about trying to fight it through that bottom hole. It can keep it lined up a lot better than it was. Let's see how it comes out. Yeah, hard getting it out, but goes down in there good, and that's what we needed. I got a label made up to go in here to go on that bar. It says bar has to be in place or for flight. I guess this is what it says here. Must be installed during flight. I had some labels made up for that, And for the baggage compartment weight limitations, got a 180-pound weight limitation for this forward baggage compartment, 10 pounds for the aft baggage compartments. So I've got labels coming for those to apply on there. Yeah, that's going to be a lot better. Still not as good as this with the little universal joint here, but it'll work.